After what seemed like 3 long years with a delay, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has finally dropped on Steam and the Nintendo Switch. This is a game I've been unconsciously keeping distant about, but was always keeping an eye on its existence. As the release date inched closer and closer, I started getting a little excited because from what they were showing in the later trailers, it started to pique my interest. Of course, one of the biggest exciting things was this was a successor to one of my favorite games of all time and defined a huge part of my life. Jet Set Radio Future. The game, and by extension the series, that was the entire reason I started this YouTube channel to begin with. Now that the game is finally out, I've completed 3 playthroughs of Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Now the question remains, does the game hold up? Was it worth the wait? Is it any good? For those who watched me play the game on the 2 streams I did for it, you probably know how I feel about this game already. For those who haven't, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is a good game. A great game, actually. It surprised me by how good it is, but it definitely has its flaws. With 3 playthroughs completed under my belt, I'm gonna give y'all the good, the bad, and the downright questionable. Give you impressions from a first playthrough perspective and how the game is on repeat playthroughs. Also, to give a disclaimer, I will not be talking about this game's story in this review. I will have a dedicated video talking about how I feel about Bomb Rush Cyberpunk's story, so this review will only focus talking about the gameplay. However, to give a small note about how I feel about the story, it was really engaging. I liked all the characters, and the dialogue was really snappy, fun, and had tons of personality. But alright, let's get down to it. So, what is Bomb Rush Cyberpunk's gameplay? BRC is an open-world action-adventure platformer much like Jet Set Radio Future. You're placed in a big open area and you're given a linear objective to complete to progress through the story. The main goal of the game is to build up your rep. How do you do that? Tagging up the area with your graffiti. With enough rep, a rival member will challenge you to a variety of challenges ranging from races, getting to this certain location without dropping a combo, doing a certain amount of tricks, hitting a certain multiplier, going head to head in a score attack, or having to tag a certain location. After you complete all these objectives, once you have a certain amount of rep, you challenge the rival gangs to a 2-minute time attack battle where your team has to get the highest score. Very familiar to those who have played both Jet Set Radio Future and the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. It is a very simple, solid, and easy gameplay loop to follow. Now for me, the biggest thing with these types of games that determines if it will be good in my honest opinion are the controls and physics. I've gone into detail about the controls and physics of both the original Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future and how they affect their desired gameplay styles, addressing both the accessibility and the feel of the game. Reason why it's harder for me to go back to a game like the original Jet Set Radio is due to either clunky controls or wonky jank physics like Jet Set Radio Future multiplayer. So, was Bomb Rush Cyberpunk successful in getting that right control feel? Well, I gotta say, the controls and physics is the biggest praise I can give this game on its execution. The controls in this game are very snappy and responsive, making turns very smooth and you can easily run in circles. In the air, you have a lot of mobility and can easily correct yourself if you make a slight error on your jump. One of the biggest things this game introduces is 3 different styles to move in. You can either use a skateboard, a BMX bike, and of course, rollerblades. However, I don't expect any significant movement differences between the 3 styles. They all pretty much control the same, with the main differences just being in visuals and how they do tricks and such. The only unique thing about them is that there are style-specific things they can do, like bikes accessing garages, rollerblades breaking glass, and skateboards spinning on hydrants. You can just also choose to run. Just take your time. Enjoy the view. This game, weirdly enough, doesn't have any momentum when moving around. You don't go faster when going downhill, and you don't slow down when going uphill. You pretty much stay at a consistent speed whether you're on the ground or grinding. It's not a bad thing, but you do notice how naturally slow your character is when moving around. You do have a boost though to go faster when you have the meter for it. The only time you really build momentum is when you're sliding, which you can do either on these sliding mats here or doing a manual to keep up the combo. Speaking of combos, the combo system in Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is absolutely my favorite part of this game, and I think it's what makes it really good. When it comes down to combos in Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, it's overall kinda boring. You were either just jumping from rail to rail, praying to God that you were still carrying momentum, or just timing your button presses, which is both not visually enticing, but it's also not physically stimulating. In Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, you build up your combo scores by doing tricks on the ground, in the air, while grinding, and also sliding. You can even do tricks while boosting, which gives you a huge score. To get your multiplier higher, you have to lean into the corners of grind rails, which also builds up your speed while grinding. Wall riding also adds to your multiplier. When you get to those crew battles at the end of every chapter, that's when the game tells you to put your skills to the test with all you've learned to ensure your victory. And I absolutely love it. It's such a good incentive to get better at these mechanics, and as someone who is not very familiar with Tony Hawk games, I think this game does a good job introducing each mechanic to the player through the demonstrations given by the rivals and the text messages given to you by your teammates. I started BRC messing up every corner turn and not doing tricks while boosting. By the end of the game, I finally started understanding how the system works, and it felt so satisfying when I finally cleared one of the hardest challenges in the game at that time during my first playthrough. Yes! Let's go! I am fucking nasty at this game! It also helps that the level design in this game is very expansive and leaves for a lot of room to go about your score attacks in any route you may choose. To talk about the visuals real quick, the art style for this game is absolutely perfect. This game was made in the style of the 6th generation console look, the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube era, where things still carried this very blocky look but was able to have a small range of emotions in terms of expressions, and animations were a little stilted but bouncy in areas. It's such a nostalgic feeling, and it's also backed up by its very bright, popping, and vibrant colors, with varied NPCs and set pieces bringing life to the world. I also gotta give a shout out to everyone who did the motion captures for the dances, because good lord, you guys cooked with the dances in this game. They're all so good. Do I even need to talk about the music in this game? Do I really have to? What is there for me to say that hasn't already been said about this game's soundtrack? It's good. It's really freaking good. It's peak, as they say. I got a couple of favorites ranging from I Wanna Know, The People, Hair Done, Nails Done, Light Switch, The People, How About, Plume, Refuse, Morning Glow, and of course the undisputed best song in this game, Condensed Milk. Like definitely some forgettable songs and like 2 songs that aren't great, but overall the soundtrack is really good. I will say though that the medleys themselves are not great. Outside of the hideout mix, the medleys playing throughout the game are way too short and they're not very cohesive. Doesn't transition smoothly like how Future does its medleys. The songs are definitely better to listen to separately. This game has hit a lot of good points for me in terms of gameplay, visuals, music, characters, and plot. This almost sounds like the perfect game. Almost. There are definitely some very questionable gameplay decisions in this game that I just have to say, man, this is low-key bothering me a lot. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has a heavy emphasis on exploration with its giant levels. There are 6 locations in the game, and each area is bigger than your average Jet Set Radio Future level. Outside of tagging graffiti, there's a bunch of collectibles in the game as well, ranging from graffiti tags, CDs, and extra clothes for characters. Now this all sounds good. Explore the giant levels and get rewarded with a goodie. This is to the game's benefit, but also one of its drawbacks. We are given a map in our phone which shows us where we have to go to progress through the story and where the graffiti tags we haven't sprayed are by these yellow markers. You know what it doesn't show? Where the collectibles are. There are no markers for the collectibles, dance spots, the taxi locations for quick traveling, bathrooms, and there are no markers for finding any of the extra characters in the game. Now, Maybe this was done intentionally to fully get immersed into the exploration, but I think it overall hurts if you're someone who's trying to 100% the game and there's no tell on where these collectibles are or how much you need left in these levels, and it's really frustrating. Which is very weird because Jet Set Radio Future had these things. It had a marker for where the graffiti tags were, the graffiti souls, and the extra characters with their own corresponding colors. Hell, besides Jet Set Radio, Grand Theft Auto also had these markers for collectibles, missions, and had a checklist. It's baffling that these things are missing in this game. One thing this game's carry over from Grand Theft Auto is the wanted system. The more you tag up areas, the police step in and try and take you out. They bring in the heavy artillery. You start off with basic cops who try to whack you and shoot at you. Then there are these terrorists that try to lock you down with a bunch of chains. Then there's the armored SWAT team, snipers, attack helicopters, and the final touch, giant mechs. This is actually a really cool mechanic, and it's much like the original Jet Set Radio and how their enemies try to interrupt your progress. You can actually fight back against the police to get them off your back for a bit. The only complaint I have is that we have to see these cutscenes every time the wanted level goes up, and there's no toggle to turn them off. You can skip them, but it would be nice to just be able to toggle those off. To go back to the whole map and markers thing, it would be nice to know where the bathrooms are if the heat gets too crazy. There is no retry button in this game for some reason. Say you mess up on a score attack and you want to quickly retry. There's no option for it in the pause menu. Every time you want to restart a challenge, you have to quit back into the title screen and then get back into your save file where the game will autosave you back to the challenge you quit out of. If you want to quit out of a mission, you have to go back and talk to the character. Now, on Steam, it's not a huge deal doing this since once you go back to the title screen option, it just takes like 8 to 9 seconds. However, if you're playing this on the Nintendo Switch where the load times are significantly longer, you're going to be waiting up to 20 to 25 seconds of loading to get back into the mission. It's so weird to not have a restart button. Then again, you couldn't quit out the test runs in Jet Set Radio Future and were forced to finish the test run. Either way, a restart option would be a lifesaver. Also, why is switching characters so mildly inconvenient? To switch characters, you have to go to the dance spots, which are spread across all the levels, and you can switch to the extra characters you recruited by talking to them in the hideout. Not the rival members, however, because they're just not in your hideout after you unlock them. You can't switch to characters like Belle, Trice, Red, or Vinyl within the hideout, because there's also no dance spot within the hideout for some reason. So you always have to go out and travel to a different area's dance spots if you plan to play as the main characters or the rival characters, which is low-key dumb, and it would be easier to switch characters if there was a dance spot in the hideout. But unfortunately, there's not. There is also no New Game Plus, so unfortunately the extra unlockable characters won't be able to experience the story and what it has to offer, and they'll just be left on the wayside. The game's missing these quality of life changes which really hold it back from being a super good game, and I hope that Team Reptile will be able to patch in some of these quality of life changes in order to make the experience much smoother. Or maybe someone can mod it. You know, we got a lot of people modding this game right now, and it's only been a few days, and I think that's pretty freaking awesome. The lifespan of this game is going to be a long one. Big talking point of this game, at least amongst Jet Set Radio people from what I've seen, is the question of, is this game worth $40? With games increasing in prices nowadays, the question of is it worth buying this game or not always depends on what it offers you. Well, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk took me 10 hours on my first playthrough of the game, getting all the extra characters on the way before beating the final boss. In my second and third playthrough of the game, where I was more familiar with mechanics and such, the game on average takes about 5 to 6 hours, which is longer than both Jet Set Radio games combined. I'm very picky about my games, but when it comes to prices, it's all just kind of normal gaming prices to me. I spent $40 on a 5 to 6 hour game and I had a fun time, and I'm enjoying myself going back to replay it multiple times. So I'd say my money was worth it because Team Reptile did a good job. All in all, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is the game I've been longing to play again in this modern gaming area we're living in right now. From the great controls, fun mechanics, stylistic visuals, and banger soundtrack, I'm reminded of all the same happy feelings I had when I played Jet Set Radio Future as a kid. The many minor inconveniences do hold it back from being a top tier game, but it doesn't ruin the whole experience for me. If I had to give this game a score, it would be an 8 out of 10, which is pretty similar to how I feel about Jet Set Radio Future. Now I have two good games that I can enjoy in tandem with each other because they both offer something I really enjoy individually. I will say though, now I feel even less inclined to want to go back to the original Jet Set Radio. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk just goes to show that there's still a place in modern gaming for these funky games, and I'm really happy with how this game turned out. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and comment your thoughts on it below. If you're interested in seeing more of my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get a notification for my next upload or stream. If you're interested in following me on any of my socials, the link to my Twitter is in the description down below. You can also join as a member, and as a member, you can get access to 4 amazing emotes during my streams, and you can get early access previews of videos I'm working on as a member. Thank you all for watching, and take care. By the way, if you thought I was gonna end this video without simping for Shine, you got another thing coming. Look at her. Look at my waifu. Look at the booba.
Lord have mercy.